Hi, I'm Tom Stevenson and welcome to Construction Business Management. In today's lecture video, we are going to be discussing how to train your employees, things to think about, and how to reward your employees. We'll talk about the difference a little bit about extrinsic, intrinsic rewards, and some of the different ways that you can reward your employees. In the previous video, we discussed the aspect of hiring employees and retaining employees. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can click on subscribe. You can look under the playlist Construction Business Management on my YouTube channel, and you'll see all the listings of the previous videos in this particular course, Construction Business Management, which is all about how to start up a construction business and also how successful construction businesses operate from small, medium to large. So you can see all the different listings in the playlist. All right, let's get started. So we're going to be discussing today some of the different methods you can go about training your employees. If you're a small business, some things to think about. I'll bring in some lean concepts as well. So we'll talk a little bit about thinking lean and getting continuous improvement going on in your company. We'll talk about the different methods to reward your employees, and there's a lot of different ways that can be done, both extrinsically and intrinsically. And we'll talk about strategies to create a positive learning culture so that people are embracing the aspect of getting better at what they do. And of course, all of this ties together with, we hire the best and we want to retain them. And we want to make sure that there's pathways for them to get better and also pathways for them to grow in the business as well. And that will go a long way to helping you to retain the employees that you have. Construction industry is a tough industry. It's difficult to find good people, and certainly when you find good people, you don't want to lose them. So those are a number of the reasons, but we definitely want to train new employees. There's the aspect of when new employees are first onboarded onto your business. What are they coming in with? What skill sets do they have? And then what do you need to do to bridge that gap and to make sure that they fit in seamlessly with the culture? So, there's a lot of reasons why we want to do that. It's going to help us improve our quality levels, our efficiencies, our productivity, and it can also shore up any weak spots that we may have in the business. Now, training can cost money, so there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it, but definitely there's a lot of payback to that. It's almost like if you think about it, developing certain systems, and we talked about systems earlier in the course, right? If you have systems in place, things go more smoothly, more quickly. Well, if you have employees that are thinking in a systems mindset, then they're looking for opportunities to do things more effectively and more efficiently. And if you have training processes in place that helps develop that way of thinking, that's going to make you a more effective business and develop a competitive advantage for your business. So how to train? Well, there's a lot of different ways, and it kind of depends on the type and size of your business, right? If you're a small business, you're not going to pay somebody to come in and do professional training or develop a specific course for your employees, because that can get quite costly, right? Let's face it, when you start out a small business, you're really sort of bootstrapped on what you can actually do. But if you're a larger business, now you've got hundreds, if not thousands of employees. In that case, it might be very fruitful for you to identify your weak spots, do a needs analysis, and figure out what would give us the biggest benefit. Where can we actually develop some training where we'll get a big return on that investment? And that can pay huge rewards. So you've got sort of this spread. Now, if you're a smaller business, though, that doesn't mean that you have some employees that maybe they've shown a lot of interest in your business. You'd like them to develop into more significant roles. Doesn't mean that there's not online courses for them, that there's not college courses that they could take part-time in the evenings, etc., to better themselves, which would help you better your business. For example, they could take some estimating courses, they could take some project management certifications. And these are all completely already done. They're just taking courses, which would help them to improve. Maybe there's a particular software that you wanted them to get better at, Microsoft project, like what I do a lot of training in as well. So those can be taken readily. And that's one avenue for those particular employees. And then really, what are you paying? You're paying their tuition, the cost of the course, which generally isn't that significant, and you can expense it, etc. There's also seminars and conferences that might be very specialized in your sector that you might want to have some of them take because or go to and attend because of the networking aspect, the opportunities it provides. If it's in a trade area, you might want to make sure that they get signed up into an apprenticeship program so that if they're working with licensed trades in your business, then you bring in some apprentices, and that'll allow them to take the schooling, basically write the tests and the exam, and get their certification. So in Canada, we call it a certificate of qualification. You have so many work hours that you have to fulfill, and then you write the actual exam, plus so many in-school hours. And most provincial governments in Canada support those employees when they actually go to take the schooling, which is like an employment insurance supplement that they receive. So there's those opportunities too, which is very kind of low cost to you, but very significant for your employees, helps to build loyalty, retention, and build for sure their skill sets, right? There's on-site training that you can do. Now, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's on-site training where you can have sort of on-site learning moments. You can have mentorship programs. You can have on-site training from somebody that is actually working for you, and you just have it like a toolbox talk sort of thing where you're sharing information that way. So there's all of these different avenues that you can develop for helping to improve the skill sets of your employees. There's even using lean principles to make learning and improving sort of a daily act in your company. And I'll use the example of 2-second lean. It's a book that was written by Paul A. Akers. Very interesting book. And Paul actually has a lot of YouTube videos too that you could just look that up and see a lot of the information as well. Excellent book because it really sort of is talking about how to get lean principles into your business. And if you're not familiar with lean, I do talk about that in some of my other courses, then that's about adding value and reducing and eliminating waste. Okay, so tell me, what business doesn't want to add value and reduce or eliminate waste? They all do, right? Because that's going to add to your profitability. That's going to help you retain your employees. That's going to help build better relationships with everybody that you deal with. So the 2-second lean concept is that you have your employees every day look for ways and means of saving 2 seconds in their actions. And according to Paul, of course, that adds up to usually a lot more than 2 seconds, but it could be the simplest thing as all your employees know that when they go up a stairs in a house, if they're doing construction in the house, they bring some materials up with them. They don't go up empty-handed. Well, just think of that. Now you don't have to go back down the stairs to get something later on. You've already brought it up. It's not a wasted trip. That's going to save you way more than 2 seconds. And you start thinking these things through step by step and really having sort of brainstorming sessions with your employees. He does it actually every morning before they start really getting into things on the job. It can be very good to create a culture of continuous improvement. It also gets your employees to be more present and to be more willing to talk in front of other people. People get nervous when they, even amongst their colleagues, when they have a little bit of a presentation to do, even if it's only for a couple of minutes. That can be unnerving. Not if you do it every day, though. You get used to it, and then you get good at it, and then you're better able to speak and relate to other trade partners, other subcontractors. So, that's just one idea that I'm throwing out there, but there are a lot of things that you can do within your own business at a very low cost to institute a culture of continuous improvement, learning where you add value and you reduce or eliminate waste. So those are some points on that kind of hit home. Now, when we talk about the reward systems that people get, now I'll talk about this a little bit more because I think I have one more video that I'm going to do in this series, and then I'll wrap it up with a review. But when we talk about rewards, we can define motivational aspects of individuals both intrinsically and extrinsically. So in the previous video, I talked about intrinsic motivation towards, somebody's motivated because they're interested in it internally. It's not because of a dollar hanging in front of them, a carrot. So the extrinsic rewards really are looking at reward systems. It could be financial systems, or it could be a promotion of some sort. So there's a number of different reward systems that we look at in business. By the way, I will say that sometimes people think that extrinsic rewards are the be-all to end-all of everything. And the research really doesn't have that pan out. Up to a certain stage, it does. Like if you're worried about putting food on the table and paying the rent, it definitely does. But if you're, for example, making $170,000 a year, to make $180,000 a year, it's not going to have the same kind of bounce, and the bounce that it has is kind of short. So just giving you sort of a comparison there. If you're making $40,000 a year and now you're making 50, yeah, that's going to have a significant sort of extrinsic motivation towards it. So it kind of depends where you are in the spectrum and what kind of lifestyle you lead, the type of bounce that might have. But definitely it is something that is used. It's a strong tool that is used in business. But I would definitely complement that with all the things we were talking about in retention in the previous video, with how you can keep your employees, right? When you spend so much time hiring them, burning them out and ticking them off, that's going to make them want to go to your competitors very quickly, and they'll even go to your competitors for less money because it's not worth staying with you if you're not creating the right environment, and which really means how they feel intrinsically as well towards the business. So when we think about rewards, the types of rewards, merit, that's what I'm talking about, where it's an extrinsic, how well you do. That's very individualistic. So you have to be kind of careful on that one too. If you motivate somebody individually, and you're working in a team, then sometimes the team's not as cohesive as it could be because everybody's kind of in it for themselves. It's one of the problems we have with construction projects. We have all of these trade partners that everybody's contracted and everybody's trying to get in and get out, but it doesn't necessarily make the whole system go as well as and smoothly and continuously as it could. Well, now you've got a whole crew of people that are all working individually. That might not be exactly what you're after. Or it may be proportionately. You can design reward systems where so much of it is based individually and so much is based on the team and so much is based on the overall business's profitability. So there can be a bunch of different movements within the spectrum, if you will. But definitely, if it's real team like identified in the work structure, then it's really good to kind of give incentives to the team as well, as opposed to individually. So it does, though, there's a lot of people, and this is a very individual thing. You might be saying, what's this guy talking about? It's a crock. You might be very extrinsically motivated individually, and that's where you would probably be better aligned with those kind of jobs where the reward systems really gives you opportunities that way. That's why you'll see people that are in commissioning, like salespeople and that sort of thing, where what they do is what they get. Some people thrive in it and some people don't. So there's different personality types for different fits as well. So some of the advantages, it allows the employer to differentiate pay. All right, it's a big incentive. A lot of businesses do this. It's been done for hundreds of years this way, since Adam Smith, the first modern economist. Also allows differentiation between the individual and company performance. How much is this person contributing as opposed to how much is the overall company doing. And really, it allows the employer to satisfactorily reward an employee for accomplishing a task that might not be repeated, such as implementation of new systems or something of that nature. So it has some very good advantages. Some of the disadvantages, the pay can be subjective in some areas. So how are you measuring that? Like, this employee who managed this project got it done on time, so they get this bonus, and this employee, because they were late, doesn't. Well, maybe this employee was late because of something outside their control, right? Maybe this one got it done on time, but did they get it done under budget? Like what are some of the other parameters? You got to be very careful that it seems like it is fair under varying circumstances. If it's holding somebody accountable for something that's outside their control, that's a good way to demotivate that individual. You imagine, you're working really, really hard. You're trying to get this bonus and it's within reach. And then there's some external thing such as design error by the architect that's got nothing to do with you in particular, and it slows the project down, and this ends up causing XYZ, and now you don't get your bonus. The next time, are you going to be just as motivated? You probably will not, because you'll be thinking, I'm not going to have that opportunity, right? I'm probably not going to get it because there'll be something will come up. So you have to make sure that you're careful about how you put these reward systems into place. There's profit sharing, and usually mid to large size businesses often offer profit sharing. So that means they put so much money in a pool, maybe 50% of the profits goes into a pool, and then that's divided up amongst the employees. And it might be divided up amongst the employees based on their positions or based on their pay as a percentage of how that's broken down. So maybe somebody on a lower pay scale would get X percent, and somebody at a higher pay scale would get that same percent, but because they get more, it would be a larger amount. Or maybe there's even a multiple factor depending on their impact on the overall business. But definitely profit sharing, that is something that can, in that case, you're not so much individualistic, right? It's sort of given percentages and based on that the company does well as a whole, which can be very good for the company in that way, that you feel more of a sense of belonging. You feel somewhat more of a ownership to the company, like how well the company does will reflect in my pay. As far as bonus systems goes, that can be quite attractive. Maybe not so much if you're happen to be in a company that's kind of on a downward slide. In the last 3 or 4 years, they haven't made any money, so there's no profit to share. Then that might have an impact. But if you're in a company that's doing reasonably well or has the opportunity to do reasonably well, it can be a real incentive for employees. So it definitely brings groups of employees to work together towards a common goal, the team aspect. There's that focus on profitability, which can have a lot of implications to it depending on how well it's done. As I said, it rises and falls. If you're not, you're in the depths of a recession, it doesn't matter how good the business is, it might have some issues that way. It's not necessarily a motivator then, all right? But it definitely helps to enhance the commitments to the organizational goals. And we've talked all about developing goals, mission, vision, strategy in previous sessions. Disadvantages, I've kind of mentioned them already. And obviously for smaller companies, there could be quite drastic swings in earnings, and you're just getting your feet sort of established. It might not be what you want to start out with, but it's definitely an option. Types of reward systems, so like stock options, publicly traded. This is going to be typically stock options. It's going to be publicly traded companies. So is your company listed on a stock exchange? So that means it's a big construction business. But then they've got all kinds of opportunities that they can offer shares as a bonus. So you've reached a certain benchmark and achieved certain goals in your review processes. And so in that case, you're eligible for X amount of shares. That can be real attractive to people. And then it can also be used as a retention strategy where you say you will receive these shares in 3 years, as an example, if you stay with the company. So that's an incentive that if somebody else offers that employee a job, they may not want to take it if they know that they're going to have these options coming up, right? So every year, if they've been there more than 3 years, every year they've got these options coming up. Do I leave? Then I might lose those options. And how much are those options worth? That's definitely going to help from that perspective. So a lot of companies have kind of tried that out over time. They've also had where you can buy the shares of the company at a discount for employees, which again means that they're buying in at a discount, and then at a certain date they can sell them if they want. So it's kind of like you're investing in the ownership of the business, and so maybe then you'll take a stronger look at from a loyalty perspective. But as I said, this is only for the biggest construction companies that are already established, because in this course we're talking about construction business management and everything from small to medium to large. That's just tying that together there. So maybe some questions that you want to ponder. Studies have shown that external motivation through rewards can, in numerous cases actually diminish performance. So why do you think that might be possible? And can you provide an example of that? So think about that. And maybe in the next video, I'll bring that up just to clarify, how does that happen? How could an external reward possibly diminish performance? And I mean diminish performance of the business. Like, how could that be a negative to the business if somebody reaches the goals that they were supposed to achieve? So that's a good thing to tie to. It ties, and can you provide an example of this? Ties to expectations. Think about extrinsic rewards. And so there's a number of factors that come in here. And think about how an inappropriate bonus system can also cause the wrong motivation that may place the business at risk. And it has in construction for sure. There's a lot of examples of that. I said this in the previous video, but I'm going to say it again because I really think this is worth your while, and we will talk a little bit more on this in our upcoming ending videos in this particular course. But take a look at the Jim Collins YouTube videos on leadership. He talks about, as I mentioned in the previous session, getting the right people on the bus, getting the key people in the right seats, getting the wrong people off the bus, and making sure you decide where to drive the bus. And getting those people that are the right people that know their jobs to help you figure out where to drive the bus. And that's tying to the vision statements that we made early in the course, right? Figuring that out and developing your goals from that. And these are extracts from Good to Great and a lot of Collins' work over his career. So ponder that and see what you come up with. I'm Tom Stevenson, wishing you a wonderful day. And if you haven't subscribed already, click the subscribe, check the playlist, click the notification, and you'll see upcoming videos. Bye for now. Have a wonderful day.